Good afternoon and welcome to Metro TV. Today is the 5th of June 2026 and it's a very, very important day. It's a day where we're celebrating the environment. It's the World Environmental Day, and for us here at Metro TV, as you would know, we have been very particular in the awareness creation and the protection of our environment. And so today we have a dialogue that we'll be having here on this channel, where we'll be discussing what this means for all of us, World Environmental Day, as we'll be sharing ideas on how we can continue with our protection for the environment. So many thanks for joining us. We're live from our studios here in North Region, Accra, and of course, broadcasting across our social media platforms on Facebook, Metro TV Ghana, on YouTube, Metro TV Ghana, and of course on DSTV channel 277. You can join us on there. And on radio 94.1 FM, we are also live on there. So the World Environmental Day is commemorated globally on the 5th of June every year, and the theme is on climate action, and it seeks to connect global climate priorities with African realities and Guinean actions. And that's very important. We put it in context, looking at our country as Ghana and the continent Africa at large. And this dialogue is designed around a clear narrative journey, and we're looking at global issues, African perspectives, the Ghanaian priorities, and citizen action. So in this particular session, we'll be hearing from experts in this particular field who will be sharing with us their thoughts. They'll be making presentations. There'll be a panel discussion on the show. So we get to Jojo, we get to share ideas on how we can protect our environment here in the country. So many thanks for joining us, and we'll have our presentations done in a bit. So stay with us. This is World Environmental Day 2026 on Metro TV, on this particular all dialogue, all important dialogue that we are having here. So stay with us. We'll be back shortly to continue.
It's me, Azar.
Yeah, me now they see. Hey, you don't look fresh. Oh.
Hey.
When your label today,
wait till you see what's inside me.
Azar, freshly made inside and out for greater coverage and colors that last longer and beautify your walls, spaces and places. Azar, no size. Go ahead. Buy now. Azar, #1 from Azar Group since 1921.
Looking for comfort, convenience, and class all in one place? Welcome to Stay Easy Apartments on Conference Center, where modern living meets exceptional service. Whether you're staying for business or leisure, Stay Easy offers you a home away from home. Spacious and well-furnished apartments, pool, gym, and everything you need to relax and feel at ease. Planning a meeting, workshop, or special event? Our event ground and state-of-the-art conference center is designed to host your events and bring your vision to life. From corporate gatherings to private functions, we provide the perfect space, supported by modern equipment and a professional team ready to assist you. At Stay Easy, your comfort and success are our priority. Book your stay or reserve your space today. Call us at 020-739-1473 or 0244-226367. Stay Easy Apartments and Conference Center. Stay easy with us.
Grab your bottle and unleash the taste of Storm Energy Drink. A bold flavor, a big attitude. Feel the vibe. own the moment. It's your time to be different. Storm Energy Drink. Make your mark.
Excessive drinking can be detrimental to health. Not recommended for persons under 18 years, lactating mothers, pregnant women, and people sensitive to caffeine. This advert is FDA approved.
Today's class is going to be an exciting one. Now, who can share an unforgettable moment in their life? Okay, Asempa.
I'd like to talk about my first time. It was her natural look, complemented by her favorite green silky apparel that caught my attention. I have to say, she automatically possessed me with her smile, which exposed her beautiful white teeth. That's not all, her enduring signature perfume could be smelled from afar. Madam, why do you look so surprised? My first time with her was special and irresistible. I'm talking about Cindy Rice. Cindy Rice can be found in selected supermarkets nationwide.
Cindy Rice, sweet aroma, great taste.
This advert is FDA approved.
June 3rd, 11 years ago, tragedy struck the heart of Accra. Lives were lost, families were changed forever, and a nation mourned. Today, we remember through action. Let's Love Lead NGO present the 4th edition of the June 3rd Memorial Sanitation Drive, bringing together celebrities, musicians, community leaders, chiefs, influential politicians, and the general public for a major cleanup exercise from Nima Mambo Bigata to Paloma and its environs. Together, let's keep our communities clean and protect lives. Date Saturday 6th June 2026. Location Nima Mambo Bigata to Paloma, Accra. Time 6 a.m. prompt. Come ready to clean, come ready to serve, come ready to lead with love. Powered by Let's Love Lead NGO. Healing communities, inspiring action. For more information, call 0242 737116. Sponsors, partners.
West Africa stands at a defining crossroads. A region rich in opportunity, yet challenged by fragmentation, policy divergence, and structural constraints that continue to limit its full potential. The African Continental Free Trade Area offers a historic pathway to unlock trade, strengthen regional value chains, and accelerate economic transformation. But today, the question is no longer what to do, it is how to deliver. Join live on 30th June 2026 at 11 o'clock GMT on Metro TV Ghana, DSTV Channel 277 and EBIT's digital platforms for the 5th edition of the President's Round Table on the theme Financing Integration in a Fragmenting Region, Making AFCFTA Work for West Africa. This high-level dialogue is designed to move beyond discussion and drive action, to identify bankable cross-border anchor projects that deliver tangible impact within the next 12 to 24 months. From transport and logistics corridors to digital trade systems to export-oriented manufacturing value chains, this roundtable will spotlight solutions that transform ambition into measurable results. Participants will address critical questions. How do we unlock financing for regional projects? How do we overcome regulatory barriers? How do we secure strong joint suffering commitments? This exclusive event, broadcast live from the Metro TV studios in Accra and convened by Dr. George Ejekum Donko, President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of EBIT, will assemble policymakers under the theme Financing Integration in a Fragmenting Region, Making AFCFTA Work for West Africa. The vision is clear. The opportunities are real. Now it's time to deliver. Tune in on 30th June 2026 at 11 o'clock GMT on Metro TV Ghana, DSTV Channel 277 and EBIT's digital platforms for the 5th edition of the President's Round Table. Mark your calendar and stay updated on this event via EBIT's digital platforms. ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, EBIT, transforming ECOWAS communities.
Environment Day is observed annually on June 5 to raise global awareness and encourage action to protect the environment. Established by the United Nations during the 1972 Stockholm Conference on the Human Environment, the day was first celebrated in 1973 and has since become the UN's leading platform for environmental advocacy across more than 150 countries, including Ghana. The 2026 theme, Inspired by Nature for Climate for Our Future, emphasizes the importance of nature-based solutions in addressing climate change, biodiversity loss, and ecosystem degradation. The campaign, promoted under the hashtag #NowForClimate, calls for immediate action to reduce global warming and strengthen climate resilience through measures such as ecosystem restoration, renewable energy adoption, and sustainable urban development. Activities planned to mark the day include tree planting exercises, community cleanup campaigns, environmental education programs, and public discussions on climate change. The campaign encourages initiatives including reforestation, wetland restoration, and ecosystem-based adaptation, while stressing that these efforts must complement reductions in greenhouse gas emissions. World Environment Day 2026 serves as a reminder that protecting nature remains central to building climate resilience and that collective action is essential to creating a cleaner, healthier, and more sustainable future.
Right, so that was a report on World Environment Day. As we're having this dialogue, the World Environment Day National and African Climate Dialogue here in our premises at North Region Crown Metro TV, with the theme Inspired by Nature for Climate for Our Future. And this is brought to you by the Just One Group of Companies, the African Environmental Sanitation Consult, which is the research arm, also the Climate Communications and Local Governance Africa, and of course Metro TV. We're going to begin with an opening statement and from one of our guests, very, very important guests that we will be listening to. He's joining us via Zoom, and Honorable Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu is joining us via Zoom for his opening statement on our dialogue here. Good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much for joining us. We're celebrating World Environment Day 2026. What would be your thoughts on the theme for this year, and generally why it is important for us to observe this day?
Thank you very much, moderator. Good morning to viewers and listeners across board. Ministers of State, members of Parliament, participants both within Ghana and outside Ghana, CSOs present, media, and the general public that are participating in this important move. I'm Kwabena Kokofu, just has been said of me, and I'm happy to be part of the program this morning. It is a very important day for me as well. My daughter Matilda Drago Kokofu's birthday, so if she's celebrating with the World Environment, then it's quite a good thing. On the issue of environmental governance globally, we've had an old order of cornucopianism that transcended into protectionism and then conservationism. Even before conservationism was preservationism. Now we are in the era of sustainability and sustaining natural resources, both bio and non-bio, that's renewable and the non-renewables, beckons on mankind to adapt, and then also to make sure the sound management practices are put in place. We cannot, as a people, continue to do what we're doing every day at the same time and achieve any better results. So the advent of World Environment Day is to remind all of us of the intricacies and the complexities of managing the both the natural and the built environment around us. We do agree that our basic and fundamental survival on this earth depends on what goes around us, what is around us, our river bodies, our soils, the quality of the air, and indeed whatever we do, we put in place by way of extracting non-renewables or minerals from the soil. Having given all this background, I think we are in a post position to be able to celebrate as a nation together with world bodies and citizens across the entire globe. So the awareness creation will reach all of us. This is not a time to leave anybody behind. We have got to be on board, and I've always advocated for catching them young in this environmental protection and environmental management conversation. At the core of all this has to do with climate change, and the effects of climate change are so real and open, and it's happening right in front of all of us, to the extent that we cannot ignore the catastrophes any longer. Some people have argued with a scientific basis, but now it's been proven scientifically that beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius of global temperatures is going to be inimical, very devastating to humankind, our very survival. Now that other resources, including the plants and animals, are suffering from the fallouts of climate catastrophes, we cannot continue to be oblivion of the facts before us. So the world has moved on over the years from science to action, what really needs to be done. And if you are talking about climate change and its effects and how to combat it, then it is adaptation and mitigation. So it's my candid opinion and hope that all those of us participating today, wherever we find ourselves, wherever level we are within the societal ladder, we should be able to comprehend and accept the realities on the ground, and then fall in place as we try to find solutions to. The Climate Vulnerable Forum, which has CVF, which has had a lot of countries across the world that are heavily hit by these climate catastrophes, is clear. The forum is very much clear and fighting, among other things, a fund for loss and damage. If we can get to this, then the issue of communication is key. So I'm happy that the communication outfit of Ghana's parliament, having come together under President Kofi Don Agor, is very much deep in the conversation situation, the communication to every person on earth, particularly in Ghana here, whether at the national level, the regional, and then the local levels. So let us encourage them, let us forge ahead, and let us all begin to act decisively as the state goes ahead to profile the policies that will get us along. The non-state actors have a role to play, to leverage on capital, to leverage on expertise, knowledge, and also to make sure that we complement and supplement whatever efforts the state actors may put in place. I end this one and hope that we have a very fruitful deliberation, and at the end of the day, we'll all be well equipped enough to fight and to face the menace of climate change and environmental degradation in our country and Africa.
Right, thank you very much, Dr. Henry Kokofu, for your opening statement there. And of course, it's just a call to action from all of us, as you mentioned, the state actors, the non-state actors, all coming together. Now, with this dialogue also, we'll be having presentations, and we have a number of experts join us via Zoom and also in studio to help us with that, to understand what we mean by the environment, even through the theme for this year and for this one. We're going to begin our very first presentation, and that will be by Engineer Dr. Glenn Jima. Now, Engineer Dr. Glenn Jima is a seasoned climate action leader and green engineering expert with nearly 2 decades of international experience across Ghana, China, and Hong Kong. He currently serves as general manager of the Jospon Green Transition Office, where he leads initiatives on decarbonization, circular economy transformation, and carbon credit development under the Paris Agreement framework. He has played a key role in designing and implementing waste management, wastewater treatment, and renewable energy projects with strong expertise in emissions, accounting, climate risk assessment, and MRV systems. His work has contributed to generating verified carbon credits and advancing Ghana's participation in international carbon markets. Dr. Jima was actively involved in global and national standard setting, including participation in ISO Technical Committee 323 on circular economy and Ghana's National Mirror Committee, as well as contributing to electric vehicle standards development in Ghana. And he joins us via Zoom, and so we'll get to Dr. Glenn Jima to give us his presentation, and he's speaking on the topic circular economy and climate action, turning waste into opportunity. Dr. Jima, the next 10 minutes is for you for your presentation. If you can hear me, you can begin with that, Dr. Jima.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, moderator, and to my audience globally. I want to ask of your permission to stand on the existing protocol that has already been established by Dr. Henry Kwabena Kukufu. Ladies and gentlemen gathered on the line, in nature, there is nothing such as waste. There is nothing classified as waste. A fallen leaf does not decay into nothingness. It becomes nutrients to the soil, food for the microorganisms, and life for the next generation of trees. And that is to say that nature operates in cycles, but not in lines. Yet, for decades now, humanity, even including Ghana, has chosen the opposite path of nature. We take from the environment, we make use of it, and we dispose it. And that is a linear model that is breaking. The current situation which we find ourselves in had pushed us all to the pathway of developing systems under the circular model. Under our sub-team for this particular conference, Climate Action in Africa, from global commitments to local action, we must ask ourselves a very difficult question. How do we take the promises that have been made at various boardrooms and turn them into real breathing change in the streets of Accra, Kumasi, and Takoradi, and even beyond? How do we turn all these things into a much more tangible and a life-changing situation? The answer lies in one powerful nature-inspired kind of concept, and that is the circular economy. When we look at the circular economy, we talk about aspects of regenerating our environment. And I would like to, first of all, move by expressing my sincere gratitude to the organizers, the Jospon Group of Companies, the Environmental Sanitation Consort of Africa, the Climate Communication and Local Governance Africa, and also the Metro TV for inviting me to speak on a subject that is not only dear to me, but much more important to Ghana's future, and at the same time essential for our economic survival, environmental resilience, and also our social transformation. When we talk about circular economy and climate action, leveraging on waste and transforming them into opportunities is something that I feel it is long overdue for us to look at it. Allow me to first of all begin with just a brief story. On any given day, on any given morning, in Accra and all over our country, Ghana, before the city fully awakes, even as early as 5 a.m., we have thousands of people who are already at work in our waste economy. We find Zoom Lion team sweeping our streets. We find door-to-door businesses knocking our doors to pick up our waste. and our various landfill sites, such as Pong and other ones across the city, we realize that informal waste pickers sort through what society has thrown away. To most of these people, it is rubbish, but to them, they perceive it as a survivor, an income, an opportunity. From the same heap of waste, one person sees it as pollution, another sees it as material for recycling, and another perceives it as livelihood. That single scene, to me, captures the message that I want to share with you today. Value is often hidden in what we choose to ignore. For many of us have ignored waste for far too long, but it's a pathway for inclusive growth. If we are to reorient our mind and perceive the value in it, we would all be able to keep our environment clean and have a resilient communities. What we call waste is not an end of value. Even when you look at the definition that MEST came up with, they call it material in transit. If you look at the Basel Convention definition, they call it as a product that has lost its main life. When you look at the definition of the United Nations Statistical Division, they call us as a material that has lost its prime objective. And all these things, they are classifying them as something that at a point in time might have lost its value. But if you look at the Basel Convention Annex 4B, they classify the disposal as a place of repurposing, a place of recycling, a place of adding value or reusing that particular product. And therefore, it is at this point that we need to understand that waste is not something that has lost its value. Beloved who are on this call, the single scene that I've shown is something that I want you to ponder about. What we call waste is not something that has lost its end value. It's the beginning of opportunity when seen through the right lens. This is a climate action in Africa, not as a distant concept, but it's a very local one that we live it daily. From the global commitment to our local action. In the Ghanaian context, looking at the theme inspired by nature for climate and for our future, I believe it is timely for Ghana. Like many developing economies, we are all facing the combined pressure of rapid urbanization, rising consumption, increasing waste generation, flooding, plastic pollution, and land degradation, alongside the unemployment rate that is rising and the growing pressure on our public systems. Yet, within these challenges lies one of the greatest economic opportunities of our generation, and that is the circular economy. In Ghana today, the waste sector is quietly shifting, and is shifting towards a huge economy. According to the 2026 study of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research at the University of Ghana, titled An Economic Analysis of the Benefit of Adequate Investment in Waste Management and Sanitation in Ghana, the waste sector has a future value of up to 47.9 billion in annual economic benefits up to the year 2032. What is it that people haven't seen? What is it that people haven't yet understood? That we are handling waste as something of no value. Waste is no longer a sanitation issue. It is increasingly recognized as a resource stream with economic value, generating value, creating employment, reducing emission, and supporting industrial development. Across cities like Accra and Kumasi, rising waste volumes reflect both a challenge and an opportunity. One that is attracting growing interest from private sector actors and also developmental partners, climate finance, and ESG aligned mechanism. Waste has become a dominant force for us to reckon with. circular economy principles, turning waste into opportunity, it has come to stay, and all of us must get on board to make the best out of it. The circular economy offers a fundamental different approach. Inspired by nature, it eliminates waste, it keeps material in use, and also regenerates our natural system. What we call waste is just a misplaced resource that ought to be harnessed. But turning this vision into reality will require us not to just have ideas, but various systems that will support it and enhance it in its achievement. And in this particular presentation, I share with you 5 main systems that will be the enablers to help us drive from linear models into a circular models, turning waste into an opportunity. The very first system that we need to look out for is policy and governance. That strengthens the waste segregation, enforces the extended producer's responsibility, and creates incentives for various recycling organizations and also the waste pickers. We also talk about the second one as being the infrastructure and logistics system that supports efficient collection, sorting, and processing of our waste materials. The digital and innovation system can't be left behind. With the inclusion of AI, improving of tracking system, optimizing our routes, and strengthening our ESG reporting cannot be left behind. The fourth pillar or the fourth system being financing and market system that would then treat circular economy as a project that is much more investable than they considering it as a non-investable kind of project. Lastly, integrating of informal waste collectors into the formal system. By so doing, we are able to bring all on board and drive towards a sustainable and inclusive growth and provide dignified livelihood to all. Looking at the waste and emission reduction, the Jospon Group of companies have embarked on quite a number of activities across the country, having 16 adequate plants across the country. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been able to drive the circular economy into a gold mines. And what are these gold mines? I'll begin first of all by acknowledging that when we look at the Jospon Group of companies, their experience across the country in managing waste, it has become very phenomenal that our footprint in all the 261 districts cannot be overemphasized. We have our presence ensuring that we are able to drive the waste right from the generating point to the safe disposal ends. Landfills emit methane, and here we have systems that ensure that we don't even send the organic materials into the landfill, that the treatment plants that we have across our various regions. We all know the potential or the potence of methane. The potence of methane is about 25 times more than the normal carbon dioxide. The first gold mine that I want to draw your mind on is the organic waste, transformed into compost, supporting our climate smart agriculture sector, improving soil health, and also reducing the fertilizer importation. And this is a gold mine that we are all aware of, but had little impact on our current economy. The second gold mine is the plastic waste, recovered into pellets, which are then churned back into our various industries as raw materials to support plastic product production in our country, thereby turning pollution into something that has become a manufacturing resource. The third gold mine is our electronic waste. We have been battling with electronic waste for far too long, but it contains gold, copper, aluminium, and many other good materials. And by so doing, we create urban mining opportunities to help drive our economies. The fourth gold mine that could be obtained from the waste stream is the waste tiles. Produced through the pyrolysis systems, we are able to get the granules that are fit for road construction. We have the fifth gold mine as our metal, the scavengers on our various homes, on our streets, and also on our landfills, they all go around there gathering metals, which is also meant to use in our industries, and thereby reducing the virgin dependency and also lowering the industrial energy demand on manufacturing these kind of materials. Lastly, is our waste to energy, where we have the refuse that perhaps they are non-recyclables. These ones can be converted into what we call the refuse-derived fuel, which ends up being used as a form of energy to power our high energy demand industries. And therefore, these 6 gold mines sit with our waste sector. How are we exploring on them to make the best out of it, building resilient communities and economies, and driving towards the sustainability that we all intend to have? He's talking about the green jobs and the green growth. If properly harnessed, the circular economy will create green jobs. It will strengthen SMEs. It will reduce import dependencies and also position Ghana as a competitive player in the green industrial transformation. It also opens pathways to climate financing, carbon market participation, and in different form of economies, and at the same time in the international market as well. We must also recognize that environmental sustainability is directly linked to national stability. Environmental degradation, talking about illegal mining, pollution, have far-reaching consequences on our water and food security. It has consequences on our public health and long-term economic resilience. A circular economy model, therefore, is not just an economic strategy, but a national resilience strategy.
Right, Dr. Jima, please do wrap up.
In conclusion, for climate, for our future, ladies and gentlemen, the future of waste management in Ghana is not disposal. It is not landfilling. It is recovery. It is transformation, and it's a value creation industry. We must begin to see waste as the end of a product's life, but as the beginning of a new economic cycle. We must shift from mindset of disposal to the mindset of recovery, from waste management to resource management, from linear system to circular system. Ghana has the innovation capacity, the entrepreneurial spirit, and the human capacity to lead this transformation, not only in Ghana, but in Africa. What is required now is about urgency, it's about coordinative action, and also a sustained commitment all across the various sectors that circular economy borders with. As a reflection on the theme for today, inspired by nature for climate and for our future, the question before us is not whether the circular economy is possible. The question is how quickly we are willing to make it a reality. I believe we can, and I know that you also believe that we can. The choice before us is clear. Let's continue with system that waste. The choice before us is clear. Continuing with systems that waste our resources and limit our future, or embrace circular model that unlocks, creates jobs, restore ecosystem, strengthen national resilience. Ghana has the opportunity not just to participate in the transition, but to lead it. Thank you for your attention.
Right, thank you very much, Engineer Dr. Glenn Kwabena Jima. Of course, let me add that he's a Reverend Minister. So please, let's appreciate a round of applause for Reverend Engineer Dr. Glenn Jima. Thank you so much for that presentation, where you say that the future of waste management is recovery, and that answers the question on how we can use circular economy as a solution and scale it up across Africa. He mentioned a few things: policy and governance, infrastructure and logistics system, digital system, where we need to inculcate the artificial intelligence. He talked about financing, and a very key one also is about integration of informal waste collectors into the formal space. Thank you very much, Reverend Engineer Dr. Glenn Jima, for the presentation on circular economy and climate action, turning waste into opportunity. Our next presentation will be on the topic nature-based solutions, climate resilience and adaptation, including sustainable tourism. It would be on climate impact on tourism, biodiversity protection, nature-based solutions, and also sustainable infrastructure and investment. And we're asking that how can Africa leverage its natural assets while protecting them? To help us with this presentation is Dr. Eric Kofi Aponope. He is an academician and researcher in the field of geography, environmental science, and local governance and development, and also tourism. He holds a PhD in environmental science and MPhil in geography from the University of Ghana, as well as BA Geography and Rural Development from the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. He is currently the head and principal of the Hotel Catering and Tourism Training Institute, HOTCAT, an agency under the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, where he's currently promoting professional training and certification for all professionals in the space. Dr. Aponope promotes investment and was part of a high delegation to China on the 24-hour economy. So you see, Doc is a big man. Yes, he worked in the local government sector for more than a decade with deep knowledge in climate change, local governance, sustainable development, and project coordination. He served on various committees on climate change, including the committees on National Adaptation Plan, National Advisory Committee on the Green Climate Fund, Ghana Nationally Determined Contribution, Ghana Climate Agenda, Ghana National Expenditure and Stakeholder Engagement Frameworks, among others. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Eric Kofi Aponope. A round of applause for him. Right, so Doc is going to do the presentation for us, and in the next 10 minutes will take us through that. Dr. Aponope, the next 10 minutes we are in your hands. So please go ahead. Right, Doc, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm very grateful for this opportunity given to me to be part of this event. The Jospond Group organizing this with the Climate Change and Communication Network, under the Mr. Kofi Donago, and then the Metro TV for hosting us. This I value it so much. I think this is one of my highest platforms. But before I proceed, let me also acknowledge, because I work in government. I work with government. I'm a public servant, and so let me acknowledge the hierarchy under I fall. And so from the president, the vice president, my minister, Honorable Ablaji Fago Mashi, the MP for Ketunov, the Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Yusuf Jaja of the Ayawaso North, and then chief director and directors. I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be part of that family, big family of tourism ministry. So let me give you, first of all, the overview of the World Environmental Day, because I'm going to outline this and also give you the climate realities, and then give you the impact and how we are addressing it from global level to the African level to Ghana in context. And so let me indicate that today, 5th June 2026, we joined over 190 countries to observe World Environment Day. This day was born in 1972 at the United Nations Conference on the Human Environment in Stockholm, Sweden. That meeting gave us a United Nations Environment Program and declared the 5th June as a World People's Day for the Environment. 50 years later, the urgency has grown from Stockholm to Paris agreement, from Kyoto to Glasgow, where we had a great park at the Glasgow Park at the conference of the Party on Climate Change, and the message remained same, but even more interesting. The health of our planet is the health of our people. The global theme of the 2026 include the issue of climate change, invariably the environment. It reminds us that while we fight to cut emissions, and while we talk about emission, we're talking about a carbon emission, methane emission, and those other gases that shield the irradiated energy into space, thereby making our Earth increasingly warm. And of course, the issue of reducing the emission, which also dovetail to protecting lives, livelihoods, landscapes from climate shocks that are already here. I must indicate, in terms of climate realities, that countries are confronted with climate risk, including climate hazard exposures and vulnerability. And coastal erosions are increasing, and accretion are also increasing. Climate changes are human-induced. Of course, the carbon emission I mentioned is from the burning of the fossil fuel, coming from big industry. Of course, Africa is not the one emitting so much. It is indicated that Africa has just emitted just almost about 4% of the global contribution to the global emission. But of course, it's the one receiving the highest impact. There are figures of increasing sea level rise, erosion as I indicated, but more importantly, because humanity is responding to this, we have also indicated that human population is increasing and getting more exposed and more vulnerable. So for African reality, like I indicated, is contributing very low, but facing the reality, 100 million people in Africa will risk falling into extreme poverty by 2030 as a projection. Coastal cities like Dakar, Accra, Lagos, which colonially have been cities developed and sprung, are facing critical challenge. Accra is in the season of flooding, and we have seen it so glaring. But it's even more existential, as the UN Secretary General indicated, that it will pose existential threat to humanity and nature. But can we sit down and look at it in this way? We need to do something. But for me to even indicate what we can do, let me outline that in Ghana, the temperature is also increasing. And it's increasing day by day. Rainfall is becoming more variable. Sometimes it's very high, and sometimes it's low. But the thing is that the intensity of rainfall and intensity of flooding is increasing. So for Ghana, half of Ghana's 550 kilometers coastline is vulnerable to erosion and flooding. In Accra, 13 tourism facilities are directly at risk. 80% of agriculture rain-fed, with only 2% irrigation, have potential use. And when rain fails, food prices would also go high, income will fall, poverty will increase. Ghanaians are affected by flood yearly. Weija Dam, for instance, is a great risk to us as people ignore the directives of developers and build around it. And any higher increase in volume and the spillage would consume large portion of the people in the surrounding area. And not just the Weija Dam area, there are a lot of areas that are susceptible to flooding and have been occupied by human settlement. Can we continue like this? That is the question I'll be asking on and on. And so for impact, I want to highlight critical areas, issues of floods, issues of heat, which are direct, issues of food security, or insecurity for that matter, energy problems, water problems, and poverty. Let me indicate also how we can address these issue of climate change. And I'm going to take it from issue of policy, because that is where most of the decisions are made or begin from. But before then, let me indicate that addressing climate change must be holistic. It means there shouldn't be one sector ignoring the other sector. So whether you are from water sector, you are from tourism sector, you are from agriculture sector, I mean, it borders on you to value the interest of responding to the issue of climate change. And so I indicated these sectors: water, energy, tourism, agri, biodiversity, and infrastructure, more importantly. Again, by policy, let me indicate that from when the issue of climate change, begin to have a major wave in our media, in our policy. Remember the adoption of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in 1992. I mean, way after the People's Environment Day in 1972, which gave birth to this World Environment Day. The UNFCCC is the anchor climate change framework, which was adopted in 1992. And over there, 3 areas were indicated: the issue of biodiversity, desertification, and climate change. And all are pursued. And so when you are going to the conference of the party, you hear conference of the party on climate change, and you hear conference of the party on biodiversity, and conference of the party on desertification. And at all conferences, there's intense discussion of how the issues can be better tackled in terms of finance, technology, and capacity. But let me also indicate that for Kyoto, which was bordered on climate change, transitioned into Paris Agreement. And the reason was that the Kyoto was more on mitigation, what we call mitigation. Mitigation is where you just reduce the emission without tackling the impact, and which comes to adaptation and resilience. And so there was a need to add adaptation and resilience component that gave birth to the Paris Agreement. And when that was adopted, a lot of people, ordinary people who are affected by climate change, had interest or have interest to be part of the issue of climate change. And that is even the reason why gone are the days when you are going to conference of the party, people are very minimal, the number is minimal, but now it's huge. Everybody has interest. They want to go to COP, they want to do this, but of course, we can do so by minimizing carbon and resources. And so, from that global level, come to African level, African Agenda 2063 comes to Ghana. Within Ghana, all the Paris Agreement is supposed to be narrowed down into a national level policy, what we call the nationally determined contribution. All these are at Ministry of Environment and EPA. The nationally determined contribution adopted issues that cast across various sectors, so that when you're in agric, you want to do, what do you have to do? There is indicators spelled out in the nationally determined contribution, so that you can be better, be guided by that policy. But even the national policy on climate change has been adopted, but I think they are reviewing it. The nationally determined contribution had first phase implementation, second phase of implementation, the third one is going through review. And then also various sector, specific sector policy. So for instance, even at tourism, we are talking about culture policy, tourism policy, which have extended issues of how you can address climate change using ecotourism and things like that. But I want to emphasize something, that must be borne in mind, that for every policy, there are 3 things that we are looking at: the issue of finance, the issue of technology, and the issue of capacity building. And so, and they work hand in hand. Of course, when you have the money, you can address issues of technology and capacity. But we are saying that for us to be able to address this policy, we must mobilize enough money. Luckily, there are a lot of various windows for climate financing at a global level. In which country like us, we need to write proposals and source for those funds. One of them is the Green Climate Fund, which has been there for some times now, the Adaptation Fund, Climate Investment Fund. Honorable Kokofu mentioned the issue of Loss and Damage Fund, which was adopted in Dubai. And all these funds are available, but how do we assess them? We need to assess them when we have a very good proposal, when we work together coordinatedly to be able to assess them. And the issue of technology, what technology can we adopt to transition from renewable, the fossil fuel to renewable energy? That is very important. So for instance, the development of solar panel comes through a particular technology process. And so that we are creating here, the issue of communication is very, very important. And of course, that is exactly what Kofi Donago and his communication team are developing. Then let me also talk about issue of resilience. And here I'm talking about how we can build a resilient infrastructure, a resilient economy, and resilient socio-cultural system. And sometimes when we talk about resilience, we think of only infrastructure. There's also resilience economy. There's also resilience of our socio-cultural system. So let me give you an example. Infrastructure, if you build a sea defense, it means that it must be strong enough to protect all those settlements that are after the sea defense. And so that road constructions and all that, this big push that we are hearing, they are all to provide us resilience system or infrastructure. The economy must be robust enough in terms of all the macro and the microeconomic indicators. And so that when there's a global crisis, we will not be shocked, we will not be stressed. And that is very important. Socio-cultural resilience will indicate to you that our cultural coordination, our cultural system must be well programmed. And that is why as a ministry, we prioritize, heritage culture so that you know where we come from, what we have, and how we can translate these cultural practices into development. Unity, peace, security, they all dovetail into culture. How can a young person carry a gun and shoot somebody? That does not have a good cultural orientation. And that can, for climate change becoming an underlining factor, anything that shapes culture would also be exacerbated by the impact of climate change. And so there's a need to build resilience in all aspects of our economy. So I think I'm just drawing closer to the end, but let me emphasize that the issue of climate change is a very critical issue in our 21st century. There are projections that, for instance, if the sea level should rise to a certain level, the whole Kita Basin is going to be swept off. About 39% of the whole Kita, the lower Volta Basin, is going to be swept off. And how can we continue to be in this situation? That is why stakeholder coordination, policy, various stakeholders must come together to talk about the issue of climate change and to talk about issue of communication. And I also want to emphasize the issue of data. Data must be available to make projections into the future. And we may also have to do a lot of investment into the climate change, writing proposal, getting external partners for investment in various areas. And I also want to conclude that the issue of tourism in climate agenda is very, very important. If you develop very good ecotourism, the various, it was indicated about 13 of ecotourism sites are on risk or in risk of climate change along the coast. Can we continue to have that? So there's a need to protect the coastal areas, protect our forest for biodiversity and biodiversity, and then to also increase our sequestration of carbon and also to increase rainfall, because rainfall is reducing and temperature and heat is rather increasing. That is not okay for us. So I leave it that when it comes to the other conversation on this same subject, we'll talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for Dr. Afanope. And this comes at a very critical time where we're all seeing the effects of this. of how the climate change is affecting us. And so if we do not pay attention to it, we're going to be bearing the brunt of it. Look at how the rains come down now, and everywhere is flooded. Places that were not known to be, flood-prone areas are now flooding and all of that. So it's a very important one. So as it says, stakeholders must come together like we're doing today to talk about the issue and finding solutions for that, and also things that governments can do. That's policy direction, very, very important one there. Thank you very much, Dr. Eric Aponope, for bringing to us this topic and sharing with us. You're watching us live here on Metro TV. It's the World Environment Day 2026, and we're having this particular dialogue here to share our thoughts, to find solutions to the problems affecting our environment. We're getting onto our next presentation, but let me also share with you that we're live on Facebook, Metro TV Ghana. You can watch us live on there. Also on DSTV, channel 277, on radio 94.1 FM. You can also tune in and join in this particular conversation we're having here. Our next presentation is by Dr. Gloria Buamakusi. She is a sustainability professional, climate change researcher, and senior sustainability officer at the Jospon Green Transition Office, and with a PhD in environmental sanitation and waste management. Her work focuses on climate action, carbon markets, sustainability education, and building resilient communities through public awareness, behavior change, and stakeholder engagement. She's passionate about empowering young people and communities to become active participants in climate solutions. And this afternoon, she'll be speaking on the topic education, behavior change, and building a climate-conscious society, taking a look at climate literacy, youth engagement, public awareness, and community action. This is also very, very important, looking at what we're seeing around us with the change in our environment and climate change. So please help me welcome Dr. Gloria Buamakusi to give us this presentation.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to be speaking about this subject on a day like this. I speak on the topic education, behavior change, and building a climate-conscious society. I begin with a quote by the CEO of Unilever, Paul Polman, who says that the biggest risk to African growth is climate change. Across Africa, climate change is already affecting the people in sectors least able to absorb shocks. Farmers are experiencing increasingly unpredictable rainfall patterns. Fisher folk are dealing with shifting weather conditions and declining catches. Communities are becoming more vulnerable to floods, droughts, and extreme weather events. These impacts have direct consequences for household incomes, food production, and national development. According to IPCC, between 3.3 and 3.6 billion people worldwide currently live in highly climate vulnerable contexts. At the same time, Africa contributes less than 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, yet remains among the regions most vulnerable to climate impacts. One reason for this vulnerability is our dependence on climate-sensitive sectors. Agriculture alone employs approximately 53% of the population in sub-Saharan Africa. When rainfall patterns shift, temperatures rise, droughts intensify, or floods occur, the consequences extend far beyond the farms, affecting employment, food prices, nutrition, household welfare, and economic growth. Recent research involving more than 2,000 smallholder farming households in Ghana and Malawi found that farmers are already experiencing droughts, floods, storms, erratic rainfall, rising temperatures, crop failures, and worsening food insecurity. However, the study reveals something equally important. Farmers with access to climate information showed significantly higher resilience than those without access. This finding warrants attention because it highlights a critical yet often overlooked climate solution: climate literacy. Climate literacy is not simply knowing the definition of climate change. It is about understanding how climate change affects livelihoods, businesses, agriculture, health, infrastructure, and daily life, and knowing what actions can be taken in response. A study of smallholder farmers in Limpopo province, South Africa, provides further evidence. The study found that the majority of farmers, almost 80%, had access to some form of climate information and daily weather forecasts. Only 7% and 10% had access to seasonal forecasts and early warning systems, respectively. And 56% did not use climate information at all when planning farming activities. Even more revealing, only 47% demonstrated a correct understanding of climate change. The lesson is clear. Awareness alone is not enough. People may experience climate impacts firsthand, but without understanding the risk, the causes, and the available adaptation options, awareness will not necessarily translate into action. This point is particularly relevant to Ghana, as many of us have witnessed the recent heavy rains, including 3rd June's downpour, resulted in significant flooding across parts of Accra and other urban centers, leading to loss of life, property damage, business disruption, and displacement of residents. Unfortunately, such events are increasingly becoming a recurring feature of our rainy seasons. While climate change cannot be blamed for every flood, there is growing scientific evidence that it is increasing the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events, including heavy rainfall and flooding. Equally concerning is that despite weather forecasts and warnings often being issued by Ghana Meteorological Agency and other relevant institutions, many citizens either do not receive this information, do not fully understand it, or do not know what actions to take when warnings are issued. As a result, we continue to see people driving through floodwaters, building and settling in flood-prone areas, dumping waste into drains, ignoring evacuation advice, or underestimating the risk of extreme weather events. This challenge is not unique to Ghana. Research from Namibia on flood risk communication found that many early warning systems fail, not because information is unavailable, but because it does not reach vulnerable communities in a form that is understandable, trusted, and actionable. The study concluded that effective risk communication must go beyond simply issuing warnings. It must help people understand the risk, know what actions to take, and have the capacity to respond. This raises important questions for us Ghanaians. When flood warnings are issued, do citizens know whether they live in a flood-prone area? Do households have emergency plans? Do communities know where to seek shelter? Do motorists understand the dangers of driving through floodwaters? Do local authorities have effective systems for communicating risk to vulnerable populations? These are not merely emergency management questions, but climate literacy questions. Climate resilience is about ensuring that citizens understand risk, trust information sources, and know how to respond appropriately before disaster strikes, not only about infrastructure, drainage systems, and engineering solutions. If climate information does not lead to preparedness and action, its value remains limited. This is why education must be at the center of climate action. The farmer must understand how to use climate information to inform planting decisions. The fisher folk must understand weather forecasts and evolving climate risk. Business owners must understand the economic implications of climate change. Students must understand the opportunities emerging in the green economy. The market woman must understand the links between environmental management, public health, and climate resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, education is still not enough. People do not always act because they know. Very often, people act because they trust. One of the largest recent studies on climate communication across 13 countries sought to understand who people trust on climate change and why. The study found that while scientists remain among the most trusted sources of climate information, people also place significant trust in friends, family members, and individuals they identify with. More importantly, trust was shaped by 4 key factors: clarity, sincerity, shared values, and respect. This has important implications for climate communication in Ghana and across Africa. Climate communication cannot be limited to technical reports, scientific conferences, and policy documents. It must reach people through channels they trust. It must be delivered in local languages. It must be practical, connect climate issues to everyday realities, and most importantly, provide clear actions people can take. This becomes even more important when we consider behavior change. Research on climate-smart agricultural practices in Senegal found adoption rates of 72% for intercropping, 71% for cover cropping, and 69.5% for crop rotation. Yet adoption of other beneficial practices such as mulching and minimum tillage remain extremely low at 2.3 and 4.1% respectively. This shows that people do not automatically adopt climate solutions simply because they exist. Adoption depends on awareness, trust, affordability, social influence, and practical understanding. In other words, climate action is as much a behavioral challenge as it is a technical one. Let me turn briefly to our fishing communities. Research among small-scale fisherfolk in coastal West Africa found that fishermen are already experiencing rising temperatures, sea level rise, strong winds, changing rainfall patterns, and declining fish catches. Many respondents reported adjusting fishing times, changing fishing grounds, and seeking climate information to cope with these challenges. However, they also cited limited financial resources, inadequate equipment, and insufficient technical support as barriers to effective adaptation. For many fishing communities, climate change is not a future concern. It is already affecting livelihoods and household incomes. This reminds us that climate action must be inclusive and prioritize vulnerable populations. Another group we must prioritize is our youth. Africa is the youngest continent in the world, which presents a tremendous opportunity. A recent study involving 1,425 university students from Italy, Morocco, and Lebanon found that climate awareness significantly predicts engagement in climate action among young people. The implication is straightforward. If we want future climate leaders, entrepreneurs, innovators, policymakers, and responsible citizens, we must invest in climate education today. Every school should become a center for climate learning. Every university should become a center for climate innovation. Every young person should be equipped with the knowledge and skills needed to contribute to climate solutions. Ladies and gentlemen, building a climate-conscious society cannot be achieved through policy alone. It requires community participation, trusted communication, continuous education, and behavior change at every level of the society. Climate literacy improves resilience. Trusted climate communication influences behavior. Community participation strengthens adaptation, and youth engagement accelerates climate action. Therefore, if Ghana and Africa are serious about addressing climate change, investments in infrastructure, technology, and policy must be matched in equal investments in climate education, public awareness, and behavior change. Climate action is also about equipping people with the knowledge, skills, and confidence to make informed decisions in a changing climate, not just about reducing emissions. Building a climate-conscious society is not a secondary climate intervention, but one of the most important climate interventions available to us. Thank you very much.
Gloria Boama Kusi, and as she says, every school must be a center for climate learning. And it's not only about policy, it's about community engagement also. Thank you very much, Dr. Gloria Bomakusi. This one we can relate with it because I can ask, and I'll be coming to that. So I would ask a few questions, or you could also share with us what you've learned from the presentations so far. Then we get into the roundtable conversation. So if you just tune in, this is the World Environment Day 2026 National and African Climate Dialogue here on Metro TV with the theme Inspired by Nature for Climate for Our Future, and also on climate action in Africa from global commitments to local action. And this is brought to you by the Just One Group of Companies, the African Environmental Sanitation Consult, the research arm, and also Climate Communications and Local Governance Africa, and of course Metro TV. So before we get into the roundtable conversation or the panel discussion, let's hear from some of the guests in studio about what they've learned so far about climate change, about behavioral change, about the impact on tourism and policy and all of that. So who has the microphone now? Yeah, what you've learned so far, just from the presentations. You could share your name and you could just speak. Yeah, you could just sit and speak to us.
Thank you very much. My name is Oswald Adeboyanu. I want to thank the speakers for their wonderful speeches. One thing that cut across their speech, as we mentioned, is behavioral change. Until we get to accept that our attitude towards the environment is not that which is right, we may not get anywhere. And so the first point of call is for us to realize that we are doing something wrong, and then we can start doing what is right. And you see, the environment, as we see it, is very, very vital to human life. And so if we don't treat it right, if we don't do what is right, and the environment keeps deteriorating, human life is going to suffer. And the evidence is clear. The behavior of people building in waterways, blocking waterways, and now redirecting the waterways, which goes a long way to affect innocent people, and people who are genuinely living in accepted areas are now suffering because of flood. And I believe that the point of call is for us to change our attitude. The point of call is for us to understand and accept that the environment is vital to our sustaining on Earth. Thank you.
Right. Very much. Thank you very much. Also, any other person with a... Okay, right.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity, and also thanks to the speakers. In fact, when Dr. Eric Afonofe spoke, my question then was, this knowledge about climate change, is it only with the elites, those who are educated, or those who are in school? But when Dr. Gloria came in, then I understood that some work is being done for ordinary people to also understand not just the risks, but also putting measures in place to mitigate the climate change. You know, without we helping ordinary people to understand the implication, the risks, the mitigating factors in addressing climate change, it will only remain the knowledge.
Right.
So when her presentation came in, I got the understanding that some work is being done so that ordinary farmers will also get to know the implications and also what to do regarding climate change. But I believe more has to be done, particularly in terms of language. You know, I was asking myself, is there any book in Tree now or in Ewe that people can also read and understand the issues surrounding climate change, or we only have the books in English? So I believe more has to be done in that regard. Thank you.
Right, so that's a very important point he makes there, that as we are taking the education down there to the ordinary Ghanaian, if we go to the Volta region, or even here in Accra, in fact, when we hit the streets of Circle, or even here in Northridge, and you ask people that, what do they know about climate change? Are we clear in our minds that they'll be able to explain to us what it is? Then it means that lots of work needs to be done for the ordinary Ghanaian to understand that. We're getting into the panel conversation here, and this will be under the theme, turning climate knowledge into climate action from global commitments to local solutions, right? So this is a very powerful theme for this session, turning climate knowledge, so they understand the knowledge of it into the action, so we don't just get to talk about it, but we are working it from the global perspective and making sure the action reaches the local level. Very, very important there. So as we heard from our special guest, Dr. Henry Kwabena Kokofu, is still on Zoom with us. Let me begin with you, Doc, as a former director at the Environmental Protection Agency, and talking about global events like the COP and all of that. How do we make sure that the understanding or our attending of such international conferences and what is talked about there, we see the results at the local level? For instance, in Ghana, we see the results right here before our eyes and on the local scene. Doc.
Thank you very much.
Doc, and let me say you have 2 minutes to answer that, so we can just move it around.
Okay. Well, you're looking at the global climate outlook. It has always been the rising temperature beyond pre-industrial levels and increased frequency of extreme weather events and rising sea levels, growing food and water insecurity. We'll be looking at WASH, that's water, sanitation and health issues. And we all do know how it impacts on our health services, the pressure it gives to the facility, health facilities. Having said all these things, back in Ghana, it is obvious. You look at the floodings, Accra, and all manner of things. Yesterday, 2 days ago, we had these things on our hands. And also, we have infrastructure development, that's the built environment encompassing all across board, where ecosystems have been reserved or preserved to serve as a buffer or bunker or sequesters for some of these climate-induced catastrophes. But we still take time and trouble to build in these waterways. So to the extent that wetlands have become wastelands in Ghana here, and people are just filling the map and then bringing all manner of infrastructure development along those lines. If you should travel along the Wejabawe enclave, you see factories upon factories, buildings, houses, and all that. It was reported about 3 or 4 days ago that at the Bawe waterworks, about 100 or so houses have been submerged. And all these things come to play. I mean, we cannot cross our eyes over going forward. So the behavioral change, the accepting the facts on the ground, and also getting our youth to actively understand and participate in the fight against climate change are all things that we need to be done as a people. So the trend continues, and we seem to be looking over. We are a country of people. We can talk so much when it comes to politics, and all of a sudden we have so many economies in the system. We don't want to behave as environmental protection guards. We don't want to learn anything about the safety and the protection of the environment, the very one that keeps us in subsistence. So it is about time the awareness is drawn home, and the environmental and the climate communication must be viewed with all seriousness that needs to be done. Yeah.
Dr. Aponope, in your presentation, you mentioned the COP, right, that in past years you would have very little number of people interested in going for such events or conferences, but now when COP ends, for the next one, people will start doing registration already for that. Are we seeing a translation of the knowledge we're getting from such conferences in our communities? Yes, please go ahead. Yeah.
All right, so can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
There is much extent of translation. I mean, let's not talk about the resources that we use for the COP and the emission, global emission that people say can even rise if a lot of people go to conference of the party on climate change or biodiversity or things like that. The reality is that a lot of people are becoming aware. In the midst of those who attend the COP are media professionals, civil society organizations, government, parliament, ministers, public servants, even sometimes traditional authorities.
Right.
I went to COP that I realized that children were there. And it's so automatic that when you are in such environment, you begin to feel that there's something going on. The kind of engagement. And sometimes too, it's not just about going there. The kind of engagement that we have before the COP, and then when you come back, what we call post-COP, discussion. So pre and then post-COP. So people who have not even attended have the opportunity to listen. Maybe we have to take it further. That if you go to COP, you come back. What level of dissemination of the knowledge that you have acquired, and even how academic knowledge that we acquire will be translated to the people at the ground level. But for me, we need to identify critical stakeholders that must do a lot of this work. The MMDAs, the Metropolitan Municipal and District Assemblies, the civil society organizations, the traditional authorities, the children in academic, curriculum should be there. Sustainability, issues of green. So it's about, you go to some country, larger number than even sometimes Ghana attend, but the impact would be felt when we are able to translate this to the people, the ordinary people, through various channels. Even issues of data, the media must. I was hearing from the TV3, not just to mention, at the Northern Region. I think he was commenting why, not Northern Region. The IESS at University of Ghana organized some event on the climate change, and then TV3 was indicating that they can do a lot of media work. But one, they are also challenged in terms of finance.
Sure.
They are also challenged in terms of personnel, because it means that you have to send personnel to all the MMDAs, and they must be resourced with the knowledge. Some may be resourced in transportation and something, but may not be resourced in climate change. And so it's not easy even doing dissemination and communication. It requires a lot of.
It requires a lot of funding also to be able to do that, right? Yeah. Reverend Dr. Jima, let me come to you because you were in COP.
Hello. Please, can I come in a little bit?
Yes,
on
please.
This COP thing?
Yes, please. Do
come yes. I'm very much interested in this COP issue, and I'm also happy that at this point in time we are all trying to embrace the need to engage in the COP activities. You may recall that Ghana's participation at COP came to the climax somewhere 2021 during COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland, where
Doc, we want to see you, so if you could turn on the camera so we can see you.
Okay. So when I led the Ghana technical delegation as the EPA boss, and at that point, Ghana made strong case for Africa and for vulnerable countries. That is where we were able to get the CVF in place, Ghana's presidency for 2 years. And I myself was the special envoy for Caribbean, from Africa, from Middle East, and all that. And we are common in the at the far end, the receiving end of climate catastrophes. Just as the last speaker mentioned in his presentation, that Africa is about emitting 4%, yet we are suffering the most. So we came together in order to find a common grounds where we can turn our vulnerability into resilience. So COP had been a very, very useful tool for us as a developing country, and then also trying to develop some kind of positivities out of this climate catastrophe. We should not lose the fact that climate change, upon all its difficulties, also present opportunities in terms of investment. So climate smart investment, where financial mechanisms are displayed are very key. And Ghana responding to this, we were able, apart from our NDCs being reviewed as in mitigation and adaptation, we also be able to review or promulgate a new law altogether, the EP Act, Environmental Protection Act 1124 of 2025, that was signed by the previous President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo into law. Part 5 of that law deals squarely with climate change and their issues. And there you find mitigation fund. There you find all aspects, the players, the stakeholders are identified as to how best we can all come together to have this climate conversation in the whole. So Ghana have done a great deal. We benefited from this COP issue. I was then chastised, I was criticized to have taken so many Ghanaians to the COP, and indeed it was not the case. All those that went, and including today, most of them are being sponsored by private concerns, private sector concerns, and institutions of trust and institutions of importance and relevance towards the environmental governance systems. So when we're dealing with COP, we must, as one of the speakers said, every school should be a center of climate activities or climate education. Every university must be a sector of climate innovation or incubation area. So again, the advent of COP, it is now clear that the climate change issues are not meant for the academia alone, not meant for the elitists, no, but for every single person wherever you find yourself, because effects on education, effects on health, effects on businesses, effects on national development cut across that come together and do this. And this conversation coming from parliamentary reporting arena is quite good, because parliamentarians must be roped in as they go about canvassing for votes to be, for them to be voted. They should take along the message of climate.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kokofu. Let's hear from Dr. Jima, if he could just add a few words, and then we can move on to, there's a part about the conscious part, and I want us to do that, and then we can wrap up on the session. But the session where, Dr. Kuzi, you were talking about the behavioral change, right? Practically, we can talk all we want and say all the big words, but practically on the grounds. Dr. Afodope was talking about the role of the MMDAs and the local governance system in helping with this. How do we practically get ourselves to understand what climate change is? Is it from the classrooms, from our books, from community engagements, or all of it together?
Thank you very much. I believe communication is not effective enough if it has not done its job.
Okay.
Climate change is a subject that affects everyone, right? And so the communication must be deliberate. The communication must seek to achieve whatever reason why we are doing so. And I believe it has to start from a point. So if there is the recipients, or there's a source and there is a delivery, how are we making sure that the delivery of the information that we are obtaining from these climate conferences we are spending so much to attend, even back here in Ghana, how is it reaching the recipients or the majority, the lay people, the sellers, the fisher folk? We need to be deliberate about it. There is a research that's mentioned that trust is one of the ways or the features that can help us to communicate effectively to obtain behavioral change. If I'm communicating an instruction, I'm communicating something to Doc to do, and he doesn't see me as trustworthy enough, there's a high likelihood that he's not going to push through or go through whatever it is. And so the institutions, the experts, the scientists, those who have the information, must, one, be trustworthy. The people must see them as trustworthy to accept whatever they are given to them. And two, clarity.
It's not clear enough.
Right.
So if we are going to have rains very soon, and then there are early warning systems that the meteorology agency brings out, and the recipients or the people at the end do not even understand when they listen to the weather forecast, they are not going to achieve anything.
It brings something to mind. So, Doc, I believe you are aware. So, if in the next 1 minute I say that explaining now what climate change is,
I can do.
You can do that.
Oh, yes, of course.
In Tree, can you also do that? Can there be a proper explanation in the local language?
Yes, I can give it a shot. But that is where we fall short.
Yes, that is it. Yeah.
Because we know so much, but then there are majority who do not understand. We can continue with the jargons.
Right.
The jargons are enough.
Right.
We need to break it down for
Right.
the majority of the people, no matter the backgrounds, to be able to understand so that we can all move together at the same level. Yes, so we need to do it in Chi. The Evers need to have this. The Gans need to have this.
Yes.
And so we get the information broken down to the level where the watchy seller or the person at Nima or Circle, the traders, you are asking them to evacuate. They don't get it. What is climate change? Can the experts bring it down to a level where everybody understands? Then we can achieve effective communication and act on it.
Right. So at this moment, I Googled climate change and I want to read what it is now. As a match, I can cheer. Climate change. Wiase bibia etre ewiem ensakraye nipa neye ena amano abasa nti ye kan sa senya ye hyenema yetwa nnua ye mfa ye nsibi ensi hono aha I don't know. So I get it. So we also need to understand it to that very level and be able to share it also to all those who do not understand in every language, so that we can collectively, make sure that we're doing something, positive on this. Right, this is what we'd have to wrap up. It's been a very exciting one. Thank you very much to all our speakers. Dr. Henry Kwamna Kokofu joining us via Zoom. Dr. Glenn Jima also on Zoom. Dr. Eric Kofi for the thank you so much for coming. Dr. Gloria Buamakusi also here. And we'll take the closing remarks on Zoom real quick. And Mr. Kofi Donago would do that for us if he's on. Right, sir. Thank you very much. I know it's been a very... Okay, so we don't have him on yet. So I'll just continue and say thank you to those...
Hello?
Right.
Hello?
Oh, Doc.
Hello. Yes.
Right, please. So then let me let you have the closing remarks, then we can wrap up.
Okay. I'll begin by going back to your earlier request.
Am I doing closing remarks?
Yes. Okay. Hello?
Yes, Dr. Kofi, you go on, and then Kofi Donago will also make his remarks.
Okay, so I said I will do so by going back to your earlier request, if it could be said in three. Yes, climate change. Ewiemu nsachrae. Enam nipa ne yanamuntio besunti amana basa. Ewiemu nsachrae amewiase ayehye achen senia nanka obade ebobre no epese echire. Enunti wiemu ayehye abro tentenso a unyame ehye no natural. Enti mpanina hwe agu se ya hwe ne ye na ewiemu yehye echen 1.5 degrees Celsius a ifri ho kono nyema be ha adwen papa wo yasetenam. Yasetenam se apomudin semu yesuku semu humasuan semu mpo edwadie ne ye nkuayo nyumamu nyina no be ha adwene. Na bra ye kase ne ne abri nyina sansem ni nyina da ho a eda ye ni mpese nsu yiri nsu to blibli na ayiri afa ye mpoano mamaya ewo ho nsu putimi yiri na atwi afa won so na de ho ko ewiem so timi ye hyehye te se Ghana amentefedo na no ba ye hye na moadoma nsusu nyina ya ade a ha adwene na ni nyina fare ba kese eye twe a ya twe ho afiri obo ade nim de nyansam o de ma ye de friend indigenous knowledge no if you say maybe atwam ko near papa nom near nananom akuafo timi sora no pa so oboko so won cry so wo emredane Watepa district ana hifa Ghana fane nyinara ugina bonten no hwe benkum ni nifa hwe sora otimi hunu se nsuo no egugu na nsuo beto ne senti utu anamon efa kwan a obeye na niam so ene eni hobio you cannot predict the weather pattern because climate change issues nti we nyina na ade a yeni abre a yepese yebo ho dawu obi a tiase obi a hunu se ejai jahihye yane niam ahihye a sebe play biasa adwene na ho a emoaye ejai kwaye ntu na yitwago na fe godu ayetutu no basa a mia ni nyina ese yensu ni nyina ese ya enu ana betumi ama yetumi akoatia climate change na wiele mun sekiraye
Dr. Kokofo yeah that's bebre say wachechire mu ama yina yate climate change no as here the doc says he wants to do in Ewe, so doc quickly in Ewe.
Finance wanted to do educational climate finance, and then he posted people from various regions to speak on in their local language, and it was that interesting. I picked a very good lesson from that. When I was telling the people, first they thought I couldn't speak the language, but when I was releasing the point, but let me try here again. Okay, so novinovio le vote akple te pesha te pe gbama medje magbul asiado gomenye be climate change a gomenye be alea khama atrotrome miapa chijanyawo miapa ajohonyawo wotro yayi kanya chijaya magalana na ma lomai olawio achijaya ye ndohuna kan yoka asiawo hamvea yenye ba mia miapa anuwa now ajotogba ajo yoka nyo dodomcho ni ahukukuo na pojijo ibomo amayoka industrial factory amayo nguduo dama jomukata dodoma oga gana khama awe ba khama hojo tano hojo na makwa awani ba ale achia naja bla ndokra na huwa magala na maro asesana tayiwe banata chida makpla nuyo kata bavam ndudu ha na be adagbla ka agblan kwa manyonyom na ma ta pie ko enye
Doc, akpekakaka. Now, we'll take the closing remarks. We need to wrap it up. So let's get to Kofi Donago. He's on Zoom for the closing remarks, and then we can wrap it up. Hello, sir.
The ideal property shouldn't be a daunting task. At MNC Properties, we believe everyone deserves a place to call home. That's why we specialize in providing affordable housing options under our flagship project, Fresh Property Joy. Specifically designed for low and medium income earners. Our range of customizable homes includes 2 and 3 bedroom standard and executive options, all meticulously crafted using innovative interlocking brick technology. We understand the importance of simplicity and convenience in the acquisition process. That's why we have designed our procedures to be straightforward and hassle-free, offering flexible payment options tailored to your individual needs. In addition to our affordable homes, we proudly offer litigation-free lands for sale in vibrant and upscale communities that present the perfect opportunity to build your dream home. We are committed to making affordable housing a reality, providing you with the joy of owning a home that meets your budgets and aspirations. Whether you're looking to buy, rent, or invest, we've got you covered. Our service team is ready to assist you on 030-255-1917. MNC Properties.
As the days come and go, there's always shit. Let colleagues explore all the planetary bodies. Our mission is in Uranus to treat hemorrhoids, anal fistula, anal fissure, anal incontinence, hidradenitis suppurativa, using laser Legasure for pain-free and speedy recovery. On Uranus Street, Accra, is Main Tuber Hospital and Coloproctology Center. Trust Uranus with us and we will delight you. Visit Main Tuber Hospital today or call us on 0244 581 541.
This Easter, Estate Masters Limited is giving you more reasons to celebrate in our extended Easter promo. Secure your dreamland at Nest Cottage, Chopoli with a massive 15% discount. Or choose Palm Hills, Gomwa Pamfukrom, also at 15% discount. And for lovers of the coast, Coastal Park, Ningo Prampram awaits you at 10% discount. Plus, enjoy free site visits and free documentation because we make land ownership simple. This Easter, don't just celebrate, invest in your future. Estate Masters Limited, your most preferred estate partner.
My name is Klaus von Backenstein, Managing Director of Ignite Media Group, owners of Metro TV, Original TV, Original FM, and Metro Digital. This is your home for all the World Cup matches, the fun reactions, behind the scenes, blasters, diaries, and all the exclusive happenings in the US, Canada, and Mexico. Don't miss out. Stay with us, and as the Minister himself said, Honorable Kofi Adam, Ignite Media Group is your credible source for everything World Cup 2026. If it's not here, it's not authentic. So stay here and stick with us.
Catch every moment loud and live on Metro TV, Original TV, and Original 91.9 FM.
Metro TV, Original 91.9 FM. We're representing live at the FIFA World Cup 2026 in Philadelphia and in Boston. Anything about the World Cup from the Black Stars training camp, from the Black Stars Hotel, interviews with the team, interviews with the coaches, we will bring it to you live on Metro TV, Original TV, and of course, Original 91.9 FM. Once again, the name is Gideon Ochedim Gattuso, Raise the Power 7, reporting live from the US of A. Stay tuned for more.
The World Cup coverage on all IMG platforms is brought to you by Estate Masters Limited.
Every year, thousands of tons of discarded electronic waste find their way into Ghana. From broken televisions and obsolete computers